Hi, I'm Rachel Reynolds. I'm a professor at the Air University's School of Advanced Air and Space Studies. And today I'm going to show you some special features of Word that allow you to do some kind of specialty editing, formatting, and efficient navigation around your document. The document I'm going to demonstrate on today is actually my SAASS thesis, so go ahead and just ignore or excuse anything that you see in here that is, wrong or dated. The two main features that I want to show today are a way to use what Microsoft Word calls styles to do some really efficient editing. And then I'm also going to talk a little bit about endnotes and footnotes to add citations to your work or to add explanatory text in the body of your chapters. So first, styles. I'll show you a little bit about what these allow you to do. First, they really allow you to navigate very quickly through your documents. So as an example, I have here my navigation pane, and you might recognize the navigation pane. It's what pops up whenever you do a search for a keyword in your document, and you'll get something called results here. But you can actually use it also to show different portions of your document. To look at the navigation pane, you can go to the View menu, and you can select it here. Here's with it off, and here's with it back on. And like I mentioned, there are some styles that you can apply that are called headers or headings, and they will allow you to essentially create kind of an interactive outline of your document so that you can quickly jump around to different portions of your document. This is really nice if you know that you want to do some editing in a particular area, or if you want to build out an outline that you intend to write more about later. So maybe you make a few headers for some sections that you haven't written yet, but you know you want to organize them in a particular way. Another nice thing about this navigation pane is that each of these outline levels, you can collapse down that uh, tree and you can say only look at a portion that you want to work on right now. And that can be really nice to help focus what you're working on so it doesn't feel quite so overwhelming having everything visible right away. I'll go ahead and kind of expand these back out. Additionally, within your document, if you go here, anytime you have one of these styles that is a heading, it will have a little arrow next to it, and that won't be printed, but it shows up on your screen when you're working with the document, and you can actually collapse down portions of your document entirely. So you actually see this is chapter 2. It has two main sections, and here, chapter 3 is right here. But I'll go ahead and expand those back out. The another really nice thing that Styles allows you to do is it allows you to apply formatting to big portions of your document all at once. And so I'll go ahead and start now showing you kind of what the Styles menu looks like. So you probably have seen it before in Word. Uh, a lot of times the generic templates that come in Word kind of have these funky looking styles. Maybe they're in weird fonts or they're all in some strange colors or something like that. It's really helpful to use some sort of a template for the document that you're going to be producing, whether that's a SAASS thesis or if it's something for a journal article, you may ask them for a template if they already have one built. My template is really nice. I've built and modified the styles that I wanted, and they are in accordance with the Air University Style Guide and the SAASS thesis guide when I was writing it. But you'll notice that some of them are called headings, and that's what essentially allows them to show up here in this navigation pane. And additionally, this is the normal text, so that's all of my body text is in the style normal. You can see it's actually kind of highlighted here. It's outlined on that preview pane. I can change normal by going and right-clicking and choosing modify. And then if I want to make all of my normal paragraphs, if I want to make it a different font, then all of that will be now applied across the entirety of the document. Um, I don't want that, so we'll do that. You can also, for individual headings, you can go in and modify and say, I want all of my chapter headings to be in a different color. You could do that. And now just to prove it to you here, we've got this chapter is now headed in blue, same thing here, and it's applied it everywhere that style exists in my document. And I'll change that back to regular black. Some of the other styles that I have available include things like these kind of pithy little quotes that I have at the top of each chapter. So here's one from Lance Armstrong, 12 years before confessing on Oprah that he was doping. So this quote section here is in the style quote, which I've called it here. Let's say I wanted to, maybe I wanted to add a second one here, here's some text, and I want to make that a quote as well. Now it's indented over here. It only will stretch this portion of the page, and I can write a new quote here. We don't want to do that. We could also, in some cases, you'll want to write, maybe long block quotes in your text, something that you excerpted out, and it runs over several lines. I have something here called long excerpt, and now that's a block quote. This paragraph is kind of in that block quote. It's indented, and it's all left aligned here. So we can do something like that. Now, I mentioned that this essentially allows you to build out an outline here in the navigation pane. Well, that outline is also very interactive, and it kind of updates automatically. So let's say here at the start of my case study, if I actually wanted to add an additional case here, I'm going to create a new section for that. Normally, if I start a new paragraph, it just starts in the normal style. But now if I want that to be a new heading for a new case study, I can change that to be heading level 2. Heading level 1 was my chapter title. Heading 2 is kind of this next level, and you can see it automatically put another item in my outline at that second level of the organization of the list. I can again, I can put in a subsection here on this particular case study, and maybe that's heading 3. Oops, let's try that again. Background on that particular portion. That's just in a normal style, but I can apply heading 3 to that. And now again, I have this kind of growing outline here. All right, so we've undone some of those edits. Now, I mentioned that this is this outline. How do you know kind of what level some header is at in this outline? Well, that's actually in this styles menu. You can go in here and choose which styles you like by using this button. There's also a smaller arrow here, and this is actually going to pop out a little pane you can use to look at kind of all the different styles you have available. You can also go in, and this button will manage the different styles that are available. You can actually see that there are many more that are hidden until you use them. Word has kind of an enormous number of styles that you can use. But you noticed up in my preview pane that I've put them in the order that I typically use them. So normal is kind of the most common one, and then I have heading 1, 2, and 3. I have some run-ins. So if I want to initiate a paragraph with some bold text or something like that, that long block quote excerpt is kind of in this awkward place. If you're using somebody else's template or you're using one of Word's pre-built templates, often these are in an awkward order that isn't really in the order that you might like to have them. So you can use this additional pane here to go and manage those styles. And in this tab that says recommend, essentially it's saying what should Word recommend to you in this preview pane. It will tell you the order in which it's going to recommend them. And here is kind of the offending long excerpt. I actually don't want that way up there. It's not something I use all that often. So I can move it down kind of manually, and it's going to put it all the way down to wherever I can click it a million times to get it to a particular spot, or I can assign it a value and say that's where I want it in this list. If I do OK, get out of here, now it's in pretty much the order that I would expect. Normal text, heading 1, 2, 3, run-ins, that special chapter quote, the long excerpt, the block quote, and then I created a few custom ones because I wanted to make a list at some point. I created a bibliography that has a hanging indent and some other options. So in addition to creating this running table of contents or running outline, it will also help you, these styles will help you to generate a table of contents automatically. So here's my table of contents. And here, let's go ahead, let's just get rid of this and we'll show how to build a new table of contents from the styles that you've already applied. This is in the References tab, and it's over here under Table of Contents. There's some pre-built kind of automatic options. You can just go ahead and choose this first one, and let's see how it looks. It takes a second, and then it generates, and whoa, that's a whole lot. So this is actually giving me the page number all the way down from level 1, 2, and 3 of my outline. You can see all the way down here. This level is represented here in the table of contents. That seems pretty excessive, especially for a document this short. So what I might want to do instead of that is let's do a custom table of contents instead. And that's going to be based on that kind of generic style. But here's the problem is that it's showing 3 levels of my outline, 3 levels of headers. I don't want that many. Let's see how it looks with just 2. And yep, we'll replace what we already have. Okay, that's a much more manageable look. I do have kind of my main headers. You may not want those. I think most SAASS theses pretty much just list the chapters. Again, these are pretty short documents, so you may not want those headers. You might, but I'm going to go back in. I'm going to say custom. I only want to show 1 level of that outline. And yes, let's replace it. Okay. And it thinks about it, and here we go. Now, additionally, you can edit this just like you would edit text. I don't like having my table of contents in my table of contents. That seems a little redundant, so I'll get rid of that. Just deleted that line. Some people don't like to have the word chapter leading in because the word chapter is maybe already up here. Maybe you don't need this. That seems unnecessary. You could get rid of that, and you can do some editing within this block as well. Now, what's neat about this is that it will allow you to update it anytime you make changes in the document itself. So let's see, instead of chapter 2 being the literature review, maybe chapter 2 is now going to be a theory chapter. So let's call this the theory chapter. We'll go back up to the contents. I'm going to right click on it and click update field, and field just means some portion of the document that's being updated using some data. In this case, it's the data of our headers. You can update the page numbers only. So if you've just added some more content and you think the page number on chapter 3 is now different, you could just update the page numbers. We'll do the whole thing because we want to see if it will rename chapter 2. So we'll think about it, and sure enough, it renamed that theory. Now, the other thing that it does is it also put back in that word chapter that maybe I didn't want. It added back in the contents that I wasn't crazy about. So the table of contents is probably the very last thing that I would edit in my document, partly because you want to make sure that the page numbers are updated correctly, but also because you might end up making a few little edits to the table of contents. And anytime you generate a new one, it's going to put those things back in the way they were originally. Let's go ahead and also prove to ourselves that indeed it changes the page number if we think it does. So the other nice thing about a table of contents, you can certainly jump in your document using your navigation pane. You can also, if you're on the table of contents page, it will tell you control plus click to follow the link. Well, I'll hold down control, turns that into a little hyperlink. I'll click on chapter 2. Maybe that's back to being the literature review. And let's see what happens if we put chapter 2 on the next page. I just did control enter. I did this page intentionally left blank. Now that's on page 23, and chapter 2 starts on page 24. So let's go back up and see if it did in fact make all those changes. We'll update. We can do the whole thing. And it both renamed that literature review, and yes, it looks like it updated the page to be page 24. So if I had added more content to chapter 1 and bumped this to the next page, it would update that. The other thing that you can insert here in your contents, you'll have to create a list of illustrations, and that'll include any tables or figures that you've written or created for your document. And like I mentioned, we can use our control click to go jump and look at something like that. Let's see, okay. Oh, yep, sure enough, that takes us to table 1. And here, we'll go ahead and let's see if we can create a new table. This is still in the References tab. It's not under Table of Contents. It's over here under this Captions portion of the menu. So I'm going to say Insert a Table of Figures, and you think, well, but I wanted to insert a table of tables. Well, here it is. This was in that same menu, except it's now under this Figures tab. You can choose, do I want to insert figures? Do I want to do tables? Let's say tables. Yes, okay. Great, and it gave us that list automatically generated. Now you might think, well, okay, but how did it know that those were the titles of your tables? That's because when you're creating a figure or a table in your document, you can insert what's called a caption. And again, we're going to look at this caption menu. So let's go down here and look at this. Here's our table. Let's say we want to insert something else over here. We actually want a new table up here, which is going to be our new table 1. This will be our new table 2, and all of the other ones will get bumped up in their numbers. It's actually going to automatically keep track of how many tables you've inserted, and it will manage those numbers automatically for you. And you'll do that by inserting a caption. So here, I want to insert, and you can see automatically it said, oh, this is your new table 1. It knows that that's above it in the document. So table 1, new first table, and we'll do that. Okay, great. And this automatically became table number 2. And if we go back up to the contents and let's update this field, and there it is, there's that new first table. You can do the same thing for figures. So let's go look at figures and we'll prove to ourselves that this is in fact happening. Landscape visualizations, sure. Oh, great. Okay, love that. There's a lot going on here, but let's say we wanted to put another figure up here. Again, we'll go back up to that captions menu, and instead of inserting a new table, I say, no, I want to insert a figure. Figure, okay, that was figure 4. That's right, because down here, that was our old figure 4. This is going to be the new one, and that should now be figure 5. New figure, and good. Okay, great. And then let's go back up and look at our table of contents. Should we update this? And boom, now we have our new figure here, and it renumbered these. And we can even go back down there and say, yep, absolutely, that would have been figure 5 before, and now it's figure 6. So it's keeping track of that automatically for you. Something else that you might run into, especially I found this with figures to be the case, where I want to be a little bit more explanatory in my caption. And so instead of just having like the title of the figure, I want to have the title of the figure and then, point P represents this, point Q represents this, the arc of letter S represents something else. But I don't want all of that text to show up in the table of contents, which is kind of problematic because if I've inserted it as a caption, all of that text is going to now show up in my table of contents. And that's really, really excessive. It's very ugly. So what we're going to do is now show something called a style break. And a style break is especially useful for these kinds of headings where you want to show a little bit more on the page that that style exists on, but you don't want it to show up either in your outline or in your table of contents. And in order to show a style break, I'm going to have to show how you can display special characters in Word. So I'm going back to my Home tab. And it's this little paragraph, kind of one of those editor's marks. And it says show hide. It says you can do this with a keyboard shortcut, which is how I usually do that. It's Control Shift numeral 8, which is Control asterisk. And it shows those. If you're not a keyboard driver, you can just use the button up here in this Home tab. And there it is, showing all the different funny characters that you have in here. So the characters here include all of those spaces. You can see the little notes that those are all spaces. You can see all of the places where you've inserted carriage return or started a new paragraph. And what we're going to do now is we're actually going to insert a new style on the same line as this this caption exists. So one thing I will say, and you may kind of find your own way around doing this once you've experimented a little bit. Typically, I'll like to just go ahead and place a carriage return before I do anything with a style break because they can be a little bit finicky. So I've just put in an extra enter here. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert a style break. Now again, for keyboard drivers, this is Control Alt Enter. But if you can't remember that and or that's really weird to do, there is a button that can insert a style break for you, but it doesn't show up on the standard ribbon. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to add I'm going to add a button to my ribbon. So up here on the Word ribbon, I'm going to right click and I'm going to customize it. Now I get all these different commands that Word allows me to do. In fact, I'm going to look at all the commands that Word lets you do, which is like a million possible options. I'm going to scroll way down here to something called a, where are you? Style, overshoot, there it is. A style separator rather, style separator. Now Word won't let me just add that to the pre-existing groups up here on the menu. I actually have to add a custom group. So over here on the Home tab, I'm clicking here. I'm going to add a new group. I'm going to call it Reynolds Custom. Okay. And in that Reynolds Custom portion of the menu, I'm going to put Style Separator, add it there. And now it exists here. I'll say OK. And here is my new little portion of that ribbon with my special little group called Reynolds Custom and a style separator. I already entered it from the keyboard, but I'll backspace over there so that it's not there anymore. It's just a regular old where we were before. I give myself a little bit of space to work with. And now I'm going to use my button to insert a style separator. And we'll show you exactly what that does. Exemplar evolutionary landscape. And I want to say something more about this figure. Point P is a local maximum. All right. But I don't want that to show up as my part of my figure caption in the table of contents or over here in my outline. I do want it to look like it's on the same line and in the same kind of format. So I just made that bold. I just made it match the formatting of the rest of the line. I'm going to get rid of all of those little special characters. I don't need to see you anymore. We'll hide them. So now it looks as if I've just written a figure, the title of the caption, and a little bit of explanatory text. But you and I both know if we went there, we would say, oh, there's a hidden style separator that makes this no longer portion of the caption. And I'll prove it to you here. If we go back to the table of contents, okay, get rid of all of you extra little characters. We'll go and right click here, update the field, update the entire table. And before I push OK, you know that if I had just edited the title of that entire caption, it would now show up in the rest of the table of contents. But when I click OK, it would have shown up here under Exemplar Evolutionary Landscape, but we will go back there. And yes, I have the full description, that explanatory text, but it is not a part of what Word considers to be the actual caption, which is what it includes in that list of figures. So there's a lot of ways that you can kind of play around with the styles and kind of experiment to see exactly how you want your chapter headings or your section headings to show up, how to create those tables of or those list of figures and tables. What I want to turn to now is a portion on endnotes and footnotes. If you're doing a lot of citations in your work, you're going to want to insert those as footnotes and endnotes. Now I will mention that the SAASS thesis guide and the AU style guide are a little bit divergent on what they say you should do. So kind of as an example, over here is the SAASS thesis guide, and as far as footnotes, it says you should number consecutively within each chapter footnotes. So it kind of says use footnotes. It shows your it shows on a sample chapter that it's using footnotes to write citations and explanatory text on the page where it appears. However, in the AU style guide, it mentions in notes that you should use endnotes at the ends of chapters. So you might want to speak with your own advisor, or if you're submitting something for a journal or you're submitting something to the AU Press, you should use the style guide that applies. I will say I really like having a difference in endnotes and footnotes, and I think endnotes really appropriately belong at the end of the chapter, in which case, or where they occur. And so that's what I'm going to show you how to do, and you can kind of adapt this method to the document that you're working with. So what I'm going to do is we're going to look primarily at chapter 2, because in this document, that's my literature review. That's where I expect a lot of my citations to be. I'm going to survey the literature and, put a lot of citations of what people have written on this topic previously. So you'll notice here in this case, I have notes, citation notes, appearing on the page where the text that that they annotate occurs. Uh, if instead of these, so those are called footnotes. If instead I wanted those to be end notes, what I can do is I can select them. And in fact, I'm going to hit Control A, that's to select all of this text. And just to prove to you that this is, in fact, I have selected all of the end notes in my entire document just by doing that. Yep, when I put Control A, select all of those, I've actually selected all of the end notes no matter where they occur. I'm going to right click on them and I'm going to convert, I've selected all of the footnotes at the bottom of each of these pages. I'm going to convert those to end notes. And it's going to automatically do it. It's going to take a second and then boom. Okay, now this is a whole mess. What it just did is it took every single footnote that I had on every single page, no matter where it was in the document, and it converted it all to end notes, and it dropped it at the end of my document, which is what endnotes are typically designed to do as a default in Word. It's also numbered them as Roman numerals, so I have Roman numeral LXVIII. So you have to decipher what number that would be. So these are a little bit ugly to start off with, but let's not click undo just yet. What we can do is we can actually kind of manage where these endnotes fall. And the way that we place them at the end of a chapter to which they belong is by doing something that's called a section break. We showed a style separator earlier. This is going to be a section break. So what you're probably very familiar with, and I'll go back up to the top of chapter 2 here. You're probably familiar with a page break in Word. And if you're a keyboard driver, you know that if you hit Control Enter, that inserts a page break. But you can also do that through the menu. Up there's that intentionally blank page that we created earlier. But let's look at what a page break looks like, and we can do that by looking at our hidden characters. And sure enough, there's a regular carriage return and a page break. You might know about inserting a page break using the insert menu, and that's just a regular old page break. And so, sure enough, there's another one right here. If we send in another one, okay, now we have a bunch of intentionally blank pages. Let's get rid of some of those. Instead of a page break, though, what we want to do here is make this page break also a section break. And I'll tell you why, or show you kind of why that is relevant here in a moment. But first, let's show you where to find a section break. It's not in the Insert menu. It's actually in the Layout menu. So it's over here, and it's in this portion called Breaks. Now here you actually can insert a regular page break. So that exists in two places, which is kind of silly. It's on the Insert menu here, but it's also here on this layouts, and it gives you an option of different kinds of breaks. You can just insert a regular page break, or you can insert a section break. And what it says is insert a section break and start the new section on the next page. So let's go ahead and do that here. Let's put in a section break here, right there. Okay, let's get rid of our page break. And sure enough, we've got chapter 2 now starts on the next page. And, of course, it's not going to show me. Let's do one where we can actually see it a little easier. I'm going to have to do this for each of my chapters. Here's that page break. I don't want that. Let's do a section break. Okay, yep, there's my section break. We'll get rid of you, page break. We don't, get out of here. Okay, we've got our new section break. And we're going to do it again one more time between chapter 3 and 4. We don't want you generic page break. Give me a section break here. Okay, and now we've got chapter 4 starting on the next page as part of a new section. Now, what does a section mean? Sections are ways that you can kind of portion off elements of your document and apply different kinds of formatting to those sections at large. So in this way, you can insert section breaks to make certain pages be in a landscape orientation. So if you have like a large map or something you want to enter, you can make that section alone landscape orientation. It's also what allows you to make the page numbers different between your front matter and the body of your document. So as an example up here, the disclaimer and the about the author section, these are all numbered in Roman numerals leading up to the table of contents. There's my abstract. Oop, this page unintentionally left blank. And then the table of contents. Those are all numbered in Roman numerals. And then here's chapter 1, and it starts, well, it should start on page 1. So I've messed something up there in the interim. But the reason that that happens is because if we look at the hidden characters, it started a new section. And in this section, I've said that I want pages to be numbered with Roman numerals. And here I want them to be numbered with Arabic numerals. Probably I should say, restarting at number 1. I'm not going to. Am I going to? Yes, I am. Continue from, oh, see, here we are. I right-clicked on this page number, bonus content here. I right-clicked on this page number. I don't actually want it to continue from the previous section. I want it to restart at 1. There we go. Now, chapter 1 starts on page 1, which kind of seems like it is the way it ought to be. And we'll get rid of all of those little things. Let's just test what we did previously. Update just the page numbers? Sure. Oh, there we are. That's much nicer looking. So you can choose how you want those pages to be numbered. Okay, back to the endnotes and footnotes. We now have, and we can prove it, we now have section breaks at the end of each of our body chapters. Chapter 2 has a section break. Okay. Chapter 3 had its section break. Okay, so we've got these sections, and we've still got all of these crappy endnotes way at the end of the document after my bibliography, numbered with Roman numerals. I want them to be endnotes at the end of each chapter. So I'm going to come back down here, select them all. I'm going to right-click on one of those notes, and I'm going to do, oops, come on now. Let's do note options. And we'll see here, first of all, well, there's the offending Roman numerals. We don't like that. Let's make those Arabic numerals. But more importantly, this is the problem here. Endnotes are showing that they appear at the end of the document. Let's put them at the end of each section. And I'm going to make sure every time I do this, I'm going to apply the changes to the entire document. So I've placed them at the end of each section. I've gotten rid of those crappy Roman numerals, and I've applied the changes to the entire document. So let's click go and see what happens. Oh, okay, this is looking promising. Chapter 1 now has all of my endnotes for chapter 1 at the end of that chapter. Let's look at the back end of chapter 2. Oh, this is my literature review. Lots of notes here for chapter 2, and they're numbered properly with Arabic numerals. And down here at the end of chapter 3, it looks like I had quite a few notes here for my case studies, and those are all numbered. And additionally, you have the option. Oh, in fact, here's another issue. We should have noticed this. What's going on here with the notes for chapter 3? I'm going to scroll all the way up. There's lots of them. Well, part of the problem with them being numbered so high is that they, this is the end of chapter 3, the end of the text. The first note of chapter 3 is numbered 57. Well, that's kind of junky. That's because I have the numbering is continuous here. I would like it to restart at the beginning of each section. For me, the beginning of each chapter. Okay, now we've got all of the things we want. We've got chapter 3's notes start at 1. Let's look at chapter 2. All of those notes should begin with number, hey, up. Okay, caught me again here. What did I do? I only applied the changes to this section. Numbering, restart, each section, apply changes to. As I said, must do every time. Whole document, apply, go. Now it's correct. Okay, recap. If I want my endnotes at the end of each chapter, note options, endnotes, end of the section as opposed to end of the document. Number them. I like the Arabic numerals here. Restart each section. Apply the changes to the whole document. Apply. Go. Bingo. Now, the last thing I'll note is that some things should be endnotes. They're just citations. It's just, oh, okay, Raymond F. Dubois. Great. I love that he wrote that. It looks like Peter B. Heller wrote something here. But sometimes I actually do have explanatory text that I want to include on the page where that uh, text occurs. So let's look here. I know I have a couple in chapter 1, so let's take a look. Ah, so this here, this note, that doesn't look like a citation. That looks like I'm explaining something about US military domains of operation. So what I can do on any given note, I can just right click on that note. I'm going to convert that back to a footnote because that's explanatory text. Is there anything else? Oh, the theory of an enemy, something from Clausewitz I'm explaining. Okay, let's make that, turn that back into a footnote too. Oh, additionally, this thesis, something, something, convert that back to a footnote. Revolutions of military. Okay, all right. Okay, too many. Okay, so if we go back to the page where that footnote occurs, you might see, okay, well, that is interesting because if somebody's reading this text and they see, if you, by the way, if you double click here, it'll show you actually where in the text that it'll bring your cursor to the sentence where that note occurs. It says, oh, this is note number 1. The problem with that is this a footnote? Is this an end note? It's hard to tell because all of my end notes I've used Arabic numerals for. What I like to do, and this is a personal preference, I like my footnotes to be in a different style. So let's look at the note options. Now we're editing footnotes. Yes, they occur at the bottom of the page, not below the text. That would be interesting. Instead of the number format being Arabic numerals, I like to make them this little symbols, just like you think, oh, okay, an asterisk means I should be looking for something at the bottom of the page. I want to start with the little asterisk, and I want to restart each page. So anytime I have a footnote on a page, it's going to, if I have one footnote, it'll be starred with an asterisk. If I have another, it'll have the little cross, then the double cross, the subsection symbol. And I'll apply that to the whole document. Apply. Now, again, on this page, I have this explanatory text. It starts with a little asterisk. And if I want to, explain something else, something about technology development regimes, what the heck does that mean? I don't know. We'll go back into references. We can insert a footnote. You can also use this to insert an endnote. Insert a footnote here. And I want to put something else explanatory. Here's my little new symbol, the little cross symbol, new text here. And you can do that. In fact, if I wanted to go up here and say, actually, here's another note I want to make, it will automatically reorder these to be asterisk, single cross. It's bumped this down here to the next page. And you can notice that this note is on a new page. It's automatically made that restart with the little asterisk for that footnote on that page. So again, there are a lot of ways that you may choose, whether it's personal preference or an expected style guide from the place that you're working for, whether it's SAASS or some journal article. If you're working on a dissertation in the future, you want to look at their recommendations and their style guides. But this is at least a little bit of an introduction to how you can use words styles. Again, on the home ribbon, to change the level of outline and to apply edits and formatting to large portions of your text, to help you generate tables of contents, lists of illustrations and figures, and then again how to work with, edit, change, move around, and format your endnotes and your footnotes for the explanatory text or the citations that apply to your body chapters. And with that, thanks very much for listening. I hope it's quite helpful.